Somebody with a good brain fixes it. Good skill fixes it. And when the man fixes that, he has contributed to this big project that God had when he put man in this world, told him to fill the earth with human beings, doing all kinds of work without which we cannot successfully live in this world.
We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us pray Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on the holy ground. We are standing on the holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us pray Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us praise Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. Let us praise Jesus. Let us praise Jesus now. Let us praise Jesus now. Oh, give it up. Give up your praise. Let us praise Jesus now. We are standing in His presence on holy ground.
When you remember your Creator, know God when you're young, then you can know what to study. You can know which direction you want to go. You can know what kind of gifts and abilities God has given to you, what He has called you for. See, when we talk in terms of only status and money to these young people that want to study, you emphasize only status and money aspect and nothing else, then they have no chance to think about God, the call of God, the gifts and talents. None of that comes into picture, only status and money. What do you study to get good status and money? That's all. So they miss the mark in their life. They never get to go in the direction of what they want. Suppose you said, I would like to study music. First of all, the parent will tell you, hey, study something else, not music, I want to become a musician, Immediately the worry comes about what is your status. When they go to look for a girl for you, they'll ask, what are you doing? You say, musician. They'll say, keep going. If you say artist, see, sometimes people come and give the profiles, biodatas for their daughter, son, so on. And people, even from outside, everywhere they come. People write to us and ask us, So I looked at one of the profiles, and it shocked me. They came and actually handed it over to me. And they're standing there, and I looked at it. Underneath, the last item, it says, anything but someone in ministry. That's what it said. Exactly what it said. Anything but someone in ministry. They're ready to take any guy. You should appreciate them for that. Not just engineer or doctor or something like that. They're ready to take anybody, but not in ministry. I guess I know why they're worried about ministry. They're immediately thinking status and money. Who's going to give the money? How are you going to attain any kind of status in ministry? How are you going to get money? So today, a lot of people do not come into ministry because they have considered what will happen to their status and money. That's why they don't want ministry. And you end up with the worst sometimes, They got 4 children. One became a doctor, the other became an engineer, another became an MBA, and the 4th one failed +2. And they say, you think he can become a preacher, brother, by the grace of God, somehow. You can take this boy, and if you can shape him and do something with him, and I got to take this guy and do something with him, no. So there's plenty like that now. But sometimes, God is great because he takes the useless ones and uses them mightily. That's a different story. But I think you need to give your best to God. When you give to God, you need to give your best to God. And young people always have to think about, why am I here in this world? I'm God's representative here to do a work for God. Whatever profession I'm in. Work for God does not mean I take the Bible, go preach. No. I'm here to do a work for God. Out of the whole project, what is God's work? Chaos, emptiness and darkness was there, and God set everything right and made a beautiful world. Then made man in his image and likeness, and then said, let them rule. Meaning, let them get to work just like me. Take the chaos, emptiness and darkness, work at it. Make everything good. That's work. Look at your work. Are you making something good in some way? When your car doesn't run, you take it to a mechanic and you don't think he's you think, well, he's not a preacher, he's just a mechanic. No, he's fixing your chaos. A chaos has happened in your family, in your life. Your car is not running. It can cause you a lot of problems when your car that you have does not run. It's very important that somebody with a good brain fixes it. Good skill fixes it. And when the man fixes that, he has contributed to this big project that God had when he put man in this world, told him to fill the earth with human beings, doing all kinds of work without which we cannot successfully live in this world. Amen? But the Greeks have got us into thinking that work is to make sure that you don't get down to jobs where you have to use your body and your strength. Work is where you can sit down and do the more comfortable ones and let the other manual jobs be done by others. So as long as you earn enough to do that, then your work is good. Otherwise, the work cannot be good at all. That's the way they saw it. But what the Bible teaches is this. Let me read to you chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, let's make man. See, I know that when you say Genesis 1:26, you're saying, well, I've studied this 10 times already. I know this. I've learned after 40 years of preaching and being in the ministry, I've learned that you should never say that. Even today, if I saw something on Genesis 1 and 2, I will read it. Or any passage for that matter. If I know it thoroughly also, if I read so much on it also, I will sit again to read it because I constantly keep learning from it. So listen, then God said, let's make man in our image and likeness, in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. All right. So what does the Bible teach? Now we're looking at the Bible. We know what the Greeks taught and how the Greeks have spread their culture all over the world by ruling the world and by spreading their language. They have disseminated these ideas, these wrong ideas all over the world about work. What does the Bible teach? Because this is the truth. That is not the truth. This is the truth. What does the Bible teach about work? Just 2 or 3 things. One, the Bible teaches that work has dignity because it reflects the image of God and the likeness of God, our Creator, in and through us. Why it is a dignified thing? Why it has such dignity? Because work reflects God's image. Without working, I cannot be said to be in the image and likeness of God. If I don't work, if I don't respect work, if I shy away from work, if I think of work as something negative, evil, and so on, then such a person cannot portray God in this world. Cannot. It's impossible. With that attitude, you can be a Christian, but you cannot really display God's image in this world. Our work is important. God has many ways of displaying His character, His glory, and His image particularly in this world. And one of the things is work. All right? Now, if you look at this passage, there is something very special in it. Before this passage, you see God creating all kinds of things. God made herbs and fruit-bearing trees and all of that, right? You read about it. And He made them how? So that they have the seeds within them, and through the seeds that are within them, you can produce more. So everything was created with even the non-living things are created with an ability to multiply and reproduce, right? With the seeds. And when you come to living beings, the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, you read about in verse 21 and 22 in chapter 1, just before this passage here. You read about how God created the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and blessed them and said, be fruitful, multiply, and fill. And then He made animals. In verse 25, the Bible says, God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And before that He said, and God said, verse 24, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. So God made the beasts to bring forth and multiply and increase. All right? And then in verse 26, God says, let's make man in our image and likeness. Let them rule. So the statement about image and likeness is very important. And let them rule. What is let them rule? What is let them have dominion? That shows that animals and non-living things were created to reproduce and multiply and increase, but never were given a job. Only man was ever given a job description. He was told to rule. Hello? Only man. He never told the animals, beasts. He told them to multiply. So they multiply. Fish multiplies. Birds multiply. That's not work. They multiply. For some people that's work. But they just multiply. Tells them to just multiply. But for man, he says, rule. And then that is even more explained in verse 28, where it says, then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. Same three things that he so told the birds and the fish. Now, fourth and fifth thing are very special. Subdue it and have dominion over everything. Subdue it and have dominion. So man has a clear job description. See, when you joined work, they gave you a job description. Do this, do that, They listed so many things that you are supposed to do. God made man, and he gives him job description. He never gave any created thing a job description, only to man. That is what makes man so special. That is one of the things that makes the difference between animal and man. I am not an animal, I'm a man. I am made for working. Work is to bring me great honor and dignity. I am in the image and likeness of God, and therefore I cannot be the man that God made me to be without working. God said rule. God said subdue. And chapter 2, verse 19, look at that. Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. Now, why bring them to Adam? He's the creator. He should have named them. He should have taken care of them. Why ask Adam anything? Because Adam is supposed to rule. He's supposed to have subdue. And all these things must be under his authority. They must exist and operate and live and have their being under his authority. As he says so, they must do it. So God brings them to Adam. He says, you name them. So in verse 19 we read like this. Go on reading. It says, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. Now, this is not about giving names like Jack or Jill or something like that. Most scholars say that this is about what they will be like, what kind of nature they will have, and what kind of an animal that will be. That Adam specified. What a great responsibility. What an honorable job. Whatever you say, that's what it'll be, God says. And whatever Adam said, that's what it was. He's the decision maker. He's like God. He's another little creator under God. God creates and this man names. Whatever he said, that was it. That the animal became. Such honor. Work is not some accursed thing that God has given to us. Work came before the fall. This is before the fall. Fall came only in chapter 3. This is when everything was fine and everything was perfect. God gives a responsibility, a very high responsibility, a great responsibility, an honor of doing work. All right, another verse, chapter 8 of Psalm, verse 4 to 6. What is man that you are mindful of him? And the son of man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with glory and honor. This is man. Psalmist is astonished at how man is created. He said, you have made him little lower than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him to have dominion over the works of your hand. You put all things under his feet. Here is man's responsibility. God creates everything and keeps everything under man, gives him total control of everything. Now he's got a job, a big job. He's in the place of God. That is why he has the image and likeness of God. The image and likeness of God given to him relates to the work, the kind of work, the nature of work that God has given to him. Because of the nature of work, such a lofty work, such a high-class work, such a work where he really dominates everything and determines everything and decides everything, removes all chaos, emptiness and darkness, makes everything function well. That is the nature of the work. That is why the image of God was given to him and the likeness of God was given to him, because he can bring about positive change in any situation. So, whatever profession you are in, you are doing that kind of job. You are an agent of change. By being a doctor, better than a preacher can preach, basically. And to the kind of audience that probably will never come into a church and listen. By your work, by the sincere effort that you make, and by the expert work that you do, by all the knowledge and everything that you have at your disposal, when you do your work well, and you do it for the glory of God, that shows the image of God to the world. People see that. James chapter 3, verse 7. Turn to the book of James. The image of God is given to man because of the nature of the work. It's God, so it's the work by nature is the kind of work that God would do. Therefore, by nature, the man has to be in the image and likeness of God. Otherwise, he won't be able to do it. 3:7. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile, and creatures of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. It's talking about how you cannot tame a man's tongue. You can tame everything, but not the man's tongue, Only God can do it. And he's making a very important point here. He says, every beast, every bird, every reptile, every creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed. Shows that man has been exercising authority, a God kind of authority over all the creatures. Now, so man is given a specific work to do, and all our work, whatever profession you're in, small or great, whatever it is directly related to that work of ruling. And that ruling has to do with fixing chaos, emptiness, and darkness. That's how it works. The close association in verse 26 of the statement about how man is made in the image and likeness of God and how he is to rule. And then immediately the rule is explained as subduing and dominating in verse 28. Shows that man's image and likeness is to enable him to do the rule of this kind and do the work of that kind. And whatever work we do relates to that. Whether you're a mechanic, painter, you are an engineer, a computer man, or whatever it is, you are always removing some chaos, emptiness, and darkness, bringing something under your control so that it can function well. And therefore, every job is important. Every job is important. I told you last Sunday that all the kings made their statues and put them all over their domain, because some of the areas where they ruled, they never went, people never saw him. So they wanted to make sure that they knew who ruled. So what was the image all about? They made their image and placed them there in the city square or some important place so that everybody can see. So everybody has in one way seen the king, at least in that image. And I told you last Sunday that God didn't place images, he placed human beings, living human beings, to represent him all over the world instead of placing images. People made in the image and likeness of God. But the image of God that people saw, you know what it represented? When they saw that image, they respected that image. The village people, the town people. They've never seen the king, but they'll bow before that image and they will garland that image. They'll pay respects to that. You know why? Because that image showed who is in authority, under who they are functioning, and who has power and authority over them, who will protect them, who will feed them, who will take care of them, protect them from the enemy. The image meant a lot to them. That's what the image meant. So they paid a lot of respect. They knew that it is a symbol of his presence and power.
Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so good. There's nothing to fear, 'cause I'm here in your presence. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so, so good. And I just want to thank you with every beat of my heart. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so good. There's nothing to fear, 'cause I'm here in your presence. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so, so good. And I just want to thank given me eternal life, and your word to light my way. You've given me a spirit with new mercies every day. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so good. There's nothing to fear, 'cause I'm here in your presence. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so, so good. And I just want to thank you in every beat. You've given me eternal life. You've given me eternal life, and your word will light my way. You've given me a spirit with new mercies every day. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so good. There's nothing to fear, 'cause I'm here in your presence. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so, so good. And I just want to thank you in every beat of my heart. You've given me confidence. You've given me a confidence, and my soul is filled with peace. You are my provider. You supply my every need. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so good. There's nothing to fear, 'cause I'm here in your presence. Jesus, you are so good. Jesus, you are so, so good. And I just want to thank you with every beat of my heart. I just want to thank, oh, I just want to thank you with every beat of my heart. Oh, I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you. I just want to